What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Natal Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be continuing our Pluto through houses series, and we'll be taking a look at Pluto in the 4th house. So, let's get into it. What's Pluto? Pluto is the soul, the psyche of the soul, the desires that emanate from the soul, and the situations in which the soul is placed to trigger its transformation or evolution. The 4th house. The 4th house is the original house of Cancer. It is the house of home, security, early conditioning, our emotional responses to things, and so much more. So, Pluto in the 4th house is a really interesting placement. And I think within my time of doing readings, it's definitely in the top 3 of Pluto placements I've read. So I've come to understand this placement pretty well. And when you have Pluto in the 4th house, the soul is coming into this lifetime with a karma regarding family, home, and an attachment to that. So although things are going to manifest in a pretty traumatic way, at core, the soul has put itself in these positions in order to liberate itself from its previous conditions. And with it being, attached to our emotions, all of this is going to, at core, help the person redefine what they consider emotional security. All right? So deep down inside, all people with Pluto in the 4th house want is to be loved and have a stable environment, some consistency, somewhere to put their emotions. But as Pluto works, the opposite occurs. These people are normally placed in very traumatic situations growing up, and it all starts with the parents. And this is where astrology really, I think, appeals to psychology, because when you get here, you recognize how important the relationship between a child and parent is on many levels, specifically in terms of nurturing and feeling safe. And if you've checked out a few of my videos about chakras, I tell you a lot of how our chakras operate in waking life is really determined early on in life. Our ability to feel or express those energies early on. But people with Pluto in the 4th house have a very strange relationship with the parent. The parent normally isn't as nurturing as the individual wants. So understand, these are sensitive souls. So the slightest thing, and when you think of this position, think of a child who's crying for hours and the parent is just not there to alleviate that child's stress, okay? And the child just keeps on crying. And so with this, these people kind of grow up to feel alone in the world. They grow to learn not to depend upon that particular parent. So here's a few different scenarios that I've seen manifest through Pluto in the 4th house. Remember, it's not going to be the same for everybody, but you want to know that at the root of it, they just didn't have a normal upbringing regarding their relationship with their parents, or particularly the mother, like most people do. So one way this can manifest is that the mother could be mentally ill, can have a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, something where they're more preoccupied with their particular desire than they are with raising the child. And how you get more insight into this is looking at the placements of the sun, the moon, and normally when it ends up in the 10th house, not the 10th house, pardon me, the 12th house or the 8th house, or possibly placed into Scorpio or Pisces, something of that you can definitely see these scenarios playing out. And the trauma is more impactful when outside of this Pluto, you have planets placed in those signs and those particular houses, 12, 8, and all of that. So, like I said, parents could be, strung out on drugs. And mind you, this can be both parents or just the mother. But there's something in terms of nurturing. So if, let's say the person was a 4th house Pluto with Sun here, okay, or Sun in the 8th or the 12th, it can show that trauma came from father as well. Right? So you can have that. Another way this manifests is that the parent has some type of secret life, or the parent is a secret to the child. Okay, so we can see kids born from affairs here, children who have been adopted. Okay, and like I said, you will see those other placements that correspond towards that. So to some extent, even if there's a parent present, say that the person is adopted, right? This can be a Asian child who is adopted by, Europeans. And early on, they realize, even before it's told to them, like, okay, I don't connect to them. There's something different between, me and them. They may look different or whatever. So you have all these different situations that can manifest. Now, on a more personal level, like I said, it's a transformation of how the person identifies internally with like their emotions as well. So other things I've seen here too are a woman who she knows she's sensitive, but she doesn't identify, with that energy. So it manifests, or she disassociates or represses it, and it comes about in a very masculine way. So these can be your tomboys, or women who just aren't traditionally women, and then vice versa, or traditionally act like women, or vice versa, men who are more feminine. Okay, more feminine approach in speech, in mannerisms. Okay, and you'll definitely want to check the aspects regarding Pluto there too. So that in that regard, it's a restructuring of the identity, the inner identity. Like, okay, I don't feel, this is how I feel internally, but externally I'm expected to act this way. So in some terms, it's like that woman or that male may need to embrace or transform their emotional response to the world or things. So they may need to be more feminine or tap into more masculine energy. The transformation occurs on the emotional level. Okay? Now, it isn't always like, the parent isn't there or anything like that. Another way this can manifest, and like I said, it's the same thing for Scorpio as well, because Pluto rules Scorpio. The parent can be very manipulative, secretive, controlling, and overbearing. So in this case, above all, right, the scenario that is playing out here is forcing the soul to tap into other resources around them. So let's say it has an aspect, from the 4th house to the 7th house. They may, take their relationship with others and try to fulfill what they didn't get at home, that nurturing that they didn't get at home. Or they may take that energy, work towards the 1st house, and, say that this is Pluto square Moon, and Moon is in the 1st house. These are the people who are very nurturing to the world because they didn't receive that nurturing at home, and in turn that helps them get more in tune with their own emotions. So on one side we have looking for the emotion that wasn't given, and then on the other side we have the projecting of the emotion that wasn't given, but all in all still searching for it and still needing to cultivate that. But regardless how it plays out, these are the people who ultimately find that they're better off away from their family. Okay? Another way this manifests is through different values from family. Family could be highly religious, family could be racist, family could be, just small-minded, gossipy, and the individual is like, I don't want that for myself. I don't want to fall into this pattern. So overall, there's a need to break certain family patterns with this position. And it relates to a lot of different things within life. And there's a need to cultivate one's own identity and be more emotionally self-sufficient. But I will say this, one thing Pluto's good for in all houses is through this particular trauma, it allows you to work towards greater fulfillment in other areas. So a lot of people with Pluto in the 4th house, especially in regards to me saying it's about breaking family patterns, they become highly successful because rather than become comfortable like with what's given to them or what's around them, they work to take themselves away from it. So, this can be people who grow up in low-income housing and then go on to be very successful. They grew up in this state, but they end up going to college and never come back. They start they established home away from family. They transform that and then boom, they start a legacy from there. So ultimately, this evolution is truly about being more emotionally efficient, fulfilling that for yourself, and working past family karmas. And if you didn't receive proper nurturing, and then you go on to have children, you make sure you give that to your children. If you could never talk to your parent, you establish great lines of communication with your own children. If parents is overbearing, you learn a great deal about personal space, and then in turn, you're aware not to be these particular type of ways. So it can be really traumatic. These are, like I said, people can end up in foster homes, all types of things. So the early life is rough, but if you survive and if you remain persistent, normally you find tons of success, and the adult life is completely different. But you don't really want to give in to that, because there's a downside to it where you perpetuate the cycle. You perpetuate the cycle of the karma. Mom was a drug addict or dad was a drug addict, and you continue that. Say they did crack, but then you become addicted to opioids or something. You think you're different, but you're really one and the same. So, very interesting position. This is my interpretation of Pluto in the 4th house. Feel free to chime in. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so now. If you need a reading, holla at me. Until next time, peace.